There's one specific scene in Glass Onion that I want to talk about. It's streaming now, so if you haven't seen it, watch it and come back, because one, it's good, and two, I'll be spoiling it. So go watch it. Miles Braun just burned the only existing evidence. It was right there in Helen's hands. She held the truth, but he made it evaporate. Any remaining eyewitnesses are siding with him. Who's going to believe her now? But then, our good pal Benoit Blanc says, "Remember why your sister walked away." So, she starts breaking the glass sculptures. She's angry at this man for what he did to her sister, exploiting her and murdering her. She's angry at this gaudy, expensive mansion he's built with the resources and credit of more deserving people whom he's stolen from. But more than that, she's pissed at the other guests. Miles Braun is a murderer and they all know it. Despite killing their friend, they conspire to insulate him, to concoct a lie that protects their precious reputations. They think they're nothing without him, and in their own desperate sense of self-preservation, they will throw anyone else under the bus. They would rather twist the truth until it breaks because they need the fiction of Miles Braun to remain intact. So, she lets that anger out. She breaks shit. She causes a scene. Here is the arc that I'm so fascinated with. At first, the guests are shocked. The initial taboo is striking to them. It's unsettling. She's upsetting the way things are, the way things have been, the way things should be. They find it distasteful. But then, after a moment, they warm up to it. The ice is broken. So they join in, gleefully destroying some art, enjoying these little acts of rebellion. They didn't have to start it, but now that someone else has, why shouldn't they join? It's actually kind of fun. For so long, they've wanted to bite the hand that feeds them, at least just a little. But then, and what I find to be the most salient moment of the scene, they all stop. They're running out of the less significant art to smash, and now what's left is the bigger stuff. Liberace's glass piano, the Mona fucking Lisa. So, they resume pleading with Helen to stop. They're back to their old tricks. They realize that as much as they enjoyed disrupting the status quo, they don't actually want the consequences of it changing. Because the way things are works for them. And suddenly, they realize that their interests are way more aligned with the status quo than the truth. But Miles doesn't care about any of this. Even if all of these possessions are destroyed, he still owns the only thing that matters. His resilient public image. The construction of him as a genius billionaire entrepreneur, the lie he so carefully controls, a story he has killed for twice. But then, the highly combustible hydrogen compound he planned to make billions from, the energy source powering this entire facility, catches fire to his entire mansion, burning the entire elaborate construction down from the inside. His patented technology, the technology funding the careers of everyone here, literally blows up in his face. So, Helen races Miles to the button that will open the Mona Lisa from its glass protective case and expose it to the elements. And in that moment, his prized possession, his ego, is as fragile as a painting. All it takes is finally removing the glass and letting the flames touch it. After they've all vacated the building, everyone still alive gathers on the concrete steps. Miles pulls his signature trick and tries to spin the narrative, but Helen points out, no, that this fuck up is so colossal, he cannot spin it. When the news gets out, the name Miles Braun will be synonymous with taking a dangerous bet on an unstable technology and in the process destroying the Mona Lisa. This is the first time in the film we feel the truth sticking to him. But the final ingredient, the final thing we need for the truth to finally stick, is witnesses. Not a minute before, the golden teat they had been suckling is the word they use, is irrevocably, irreconcilably disgraced. It's only then that they decide to tell the truth. They align their stories, shifting the blame to where it should have been all along, Miles Braun. For the first time, They recalled the details of what actually happened. He knowingly put pineapple juice in a drink, handed it to Duke, and killed him with an allergic reaction. I would like to believe that they made this decision to tell the truth out of the goodness of their hearts, that the spirit of truth won, that good has triumphed over evil. But that's not fucking true. They're still assholes, and they only turned on him because they realized there's nothing else he can do for them. For the past few years, I've spent a lot of time spiraling, specifically about the dysfunction of our systems and how the truth about their dysfunction is publicly available. The lack of action taken to fix them is largely due to the lack of education about saying that the things are true and happened, and of raising class consciousness, but also of dismantling the ideological frameworks that prevent those facts from sticking. These worldviews justify our broken systems with a tired, broken record of flimsy retorts and counterexamples. It's just like the same stuff. Especially since 2016, I've really had to reckon with why the truth doesn't stick to some people. Every time our former president, oh my God, sorry to bring him up, did a new horrible thing, a lot of liberals would say, this time we got him. He's over now. He crossed the line. It's over, baby. We got him. So we noticed he'd stepped over a line, and we're all looking around like, you guys saw that, right? But the response was not a resounding consensus. And then we looked down again, only to see that the line has moved to just in front of his toes again. And business continues as usual, and the line continues to move. Like frogs in hot water, we're sitting around watching the Overton window move further and further into some truly terrifying places, wondering if there's anything that can be done to stop it. And I wonder, why aren't people who can do something to stop this doing anything? Why is the news media not adding any disclaimers about the fact that what he just said is not true and also unacceptable? Like, don't we all agree that this is unacceptable? Don't we? Guys? I remember around 2017, I was having a conversation with an acquaintance who really liked Elon Musk. They were like enamored with him. They were just like, he's taking us into space. He's leading the charge in the realm of electric cars, which was cool. And he's building tunnels or something. He's the futurist we've always wanted. And he's like our guy. And I didn't know much about him at the time, but over the course of the next few years, unfortunately, I learned that he sucks. And then, in the weeks prior to Glass Onion's limited run in theaters, Elon bought Twitter and immediately began burning it to the ground on accident, probably. And then there was the FTX scandal with Sam Bankman-Fried being recently arrested. So, like, many of the industry leaders, the people considered to be geniuses, the Forbes cover people, end up being better at curating their public perception than they were at the thing we thought they were doing. In this really great book called Trick Mirror, there's an essay called The Story of a Generation in 7 Scams. It's written by Gia Tolentino, and I highly recommend the book. The essay looks at the world through the lens of a few famous cases of fraud. Starts with Fire Festival and then goes into student loan crisis and the 2008 financial crash. She explores them not as aberrations from the norm, but as perhaps the truest manifestation of the things the United States seems to actually value. She ends the piece discussing how she wants to spend her time and money morally, and that maybe once she reaches that next tier of financial security, she'll be able to do so. Quote, "This is a useful fantasy, I think, but it's a fantasy. We are what we do, and we do what we're used to, and like many people in my generation, I was raised from adolescence to this fragile, frantic, unstable adulthood on a relentless demonstration that scamming pays." Hey, bud. Oh, are you scared? Aw, buddy. Oh, no. It's a teleprompter. When I saw Glass Onion in theaters, I was elated. That ending was a form of catharsis I think I've been waiting for years. But as I drove home, I started getting sad. Sad because stuff like that doesn't really happen much in real life. Like sometimes, but not usually. Because it doesn't seem to stick when you try and accurately describe the wrongdoings of a powerful person. But I know that if we want to live in a world that values truth, we have to be honest about the liars who have convinced us they're geniuses. We have to push back on the narratives with one that's more grounded and human, that no one earns $1 billion, and that hoarded wealth is based on exploitation. It's not them being good at their job necessarily, it's them controlling the labor. That it does not trickle down, don't try me with that shit, and that the collective power of labor threatens the bottom line of large corporations, and that together we have a lot of power. That a better world is possible. And the thing keeping us from it is where we, the big we, the collective we, place our value. And as long as we continue to hand the keys to Miles Braun, he will continue to try and kill us to protect himself. The only thing we can do is accurately tell the story of what we saw. Happy holidays, everybody.